The following show is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. We are live. Coffee with the Johns. I believe this is episode 15 of season 2. It's not Friday morning. I don't know if you guys realized, but we had John had a commitment that he needs to leave this afternoon. So we felt that, hey, let's try a Thursday, see how it goes. So if you wouldn't mind helping us out and sharing this on your favorite social media platform and let others know that we are live today and not tomorrow.
Give us a like.
With that being said, welcome everybody. We have a lot going on. We are going to be talking about some issues that we've been having on one of our new builds, one of the lots we just purchased, and some other stuff going on in local real estate. We're going to be talking about some local economic news for San Antonio, for Texas, that's going to be affecting you. We're going to be talking about how a day trader got hit with an $800,000 tax bill for a $45,000 profit. So, yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about that. And then Matthew McConaughey for governor. What the hell?
Rock for president.
And the Rock for president. Well, we'll get into that, and it'll be a fun discussion. During that time, I appreciate you guys just giving us that thumbs up. If you're finding this valuable, it means a lot. And if you didn't know, we have an insider texting community. If you live local or near San Antonio, we do property tours, and we let only those people that are in our community know when we're doing a property tour. So make sure you join that community. Just text property tour to 210-794-9898. And if you don't live locally, just text CWTJ, Coffee with the Johns, to 210-794-9898. And you will receive pretty much all the stuff that might take us a while to be able to put out on a podcast. You know, you receive everything in real time tips, and you will receive some things that might not go on a podcast that's just private to you guys. So that, and then we also have created a private Facebook group for investors, and this is purely for education. This is for people to help each other out, educate. If you have questions, if you have things that are not making sense to you in real estate, that's what this group is for. So on Facebook, just search real estate investing the right way. And it's a private group. Answer the questions and you will be let in. But again, there's some great conversations, great people on there, some very, very savvy investors. And we also have some very new investors and all in between. So make sure to join that group. With all that being said, I am your host, John Barbera. And with me as always is co-host John Barr. How's it going, sir?
Good.
So, crazy week, right? I mean, doing this on a Thursday has thrown the whole week off for me.
It really did. It's just like going through the week, and it was like up to Wednesday, and like, all right, I got to do articles and stuff. And you don't realize like how little news like consumed throughout the beginning of the week and the middle of the week. And like, it really was just kind of like, man, I got to get these articles in. But now it's like the week's like, oh, like feels like it just started, but it's Thursday. It's only one day different, but it feels like the week got cut in half. All of a sudden, so
yeah, and not only that did the week get cut in half, but we have our routines, we have everything. And yesterday, we decided to a friend of ours, Austin Linney, invited us to go play golf with him and a few investors. And I mean, I haven't played golf since the last Black Sheep Open, which was like over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. So we're like, all right, let's go do that. Wake up yesterday morning to find out that it seemed like somebody had hacked our server, which contains all of our data, everything.
Yeah, 5 years of information.
Everything that we have. And so tee off was at 10:15 or something.
10:30, yeah.
And it's like 7:30 and I'm dealing with this. I was like, holy crap. All the employees that we have, everybody works off of those servers. So I'm trying to get everything up and running before anybody has to clock in and get all that sorted and everything. It was such a shit show. And it turned out like pretty much what happened was all of our files were being encrypted. right? And the only way to decrypt them or uncrypt them, decrypt, I don't
Pay
know,
somebody in Bitcoin.
is they wanted a ransom pretty much. So you had to go to this place and deposit zero point zero 0.01 bitcoins, and
$6,000.
they would give you, I don't know, and they would give you the password to decrypt the files. But every file was encrypted individually, so you would have had to go file by file and decrypt each and every single one of
Oh
those
my
files.
God.
And each one of those files was, I mean, for us, we're talking about thousands of files.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, it's
Tens
been
of thousands of
yeah,
files.
it's been such a shit show. Then things started disappearing from our drive. So, I mean, been dealing with that. It's been frustrating as hell. And this is what's funny. We set up an internal server as a protection against anything happening, right? So that internal server backs up to Google Drive to have another redundancy, right? Just, hey, let's have backups on top of backups, right? What ended up happening is the company that supplied the server was hacked. The company was hacked.
Oh my God.
They got in through one of these little weak protocols that they had, just like literally like this little pinhole of a place, and they dropped the virus. So everybody, and the server company that we use is QNAP. Everybody that had a QNAP got infected.
Oh, so it wasn't just like, this is news to me. Like, I knew
Yeah.
about the issue, but I didn't hear this story of
So
everything.
it was a virus it wasn't, because we thought it came from one of our somebody, right? Somebody had a virus in their computer, uploaded it to a folder, which never made sense to me because there's redundancies in place to stop that from happening. Every file uploaded to the drive, everything is being checked and scanned before it's done. So it's really like you can't upload something, at least on our end. So it didn't make sense. And when I kept looking at all the files and everything, I was like, but this seems like it's coming from our server, not from like Google or a file. So after digging in and looking at it, yeah, it came from their end. And I mean, they can apologize, they can do whatever the hell they want. The fact is that right now we have lost so far nearly 700 gigabytes of data. That's a ton of stuff, a ton of documents, legal, taxes, forms, education.
I mean, I was checking it last night, and I was clicking through the file on my phone, and I was like, all of my market update information that I've had for 4 years, all that backdata is gone. All the reports are gone. All of our tax and legal advice and everything was gone, wiped clean. I was like, oh my God! But you did that first thing yesterday morning. You changed the password to the drives,
right? Well, because I thought we were getting hacked, so what I did was that I was like, all right, if we're hacked, let me go in, change the password, at least stop them from committing any further damage, right? And luckily what that did was it's also stopped everybody who already had any syncing going or anything, just stopped it clean. So then it's like no more corruption.
Like my computer syncs straight to Google Drive, not to the QNAP. So when you change that password, everything that was on my computer, minus like all of our videos, was synced to the hard drive on my computer. And I freaked out there for a minute yesterday. It was like I turned my computer on to do some work yesterday afternoon. I was like, oh, and it synced and it would have erased everything. I had you didn't know you changed the password. And then I got this morning, the first thing I did is turned on my computer, unplugged my internet, and opened up the files and saw everything still there. And I was like, okay, thank God, at least all of that stuff's saved. Now it's just all of the Investor's Journey, Coffee with John's, all that stuff is the portion that's lost.
If this hits any of your nerves a little bit of saying, man, poor guys, just hit that thumbs up for us. It'll make us feel better.
Yeah.
But new people. You can imagine how that affected the day yesterday. It was pretty much, we were on the second hole and I was already over it. I could not wait to get back because to me, this kind of problem and everything, and then being out golfing, I'm like, oh my God. And what's funny is that I usually don't take any time to do anything for myself, and this is kind of like life saying, see, this is why you shouldn't take any time, always work. So
I mean,
it was a fun time.
Well, especially like you just realize like how dependent your business runs nowadays on internet and servers and things that are like outside of your control, to where it's like cybersecurity is a real thing. It's a real living, growing thing. It's not like, hey,
Yeah.
I just build. It's not like a building and I fortify it and it's like now nobody can get in. It's like, no, it's constantly got all kinds of issues in real time around the world of people trying to hack and cause problems. My thing with like QNAP, like if they can't recover all this data, like the lawsuits that they're going to be involved with, like that's their fault that caused massive amounts of damage to everybody that had their equipment.
Yeah.
They're like, there has to be some of their liability. It's like, this is your equipment. This is your issue, their entry point. It's just like all the lawsuits that happened with one of the TransUnion or one of the credit bureaus where they got hacked and lost like 100 million people's credit profiles. And like mine got hacked from that. And they had to pay for credit monitoring for like a year and a half or something like that. And then had to give like the compensation was something minuscule, like, oh, the class action lawsuit, you won, you get $10. But they had to like kick off to everybody that was involved. So it is something that is, it's like, man, cybersecurity is a real thing. And it's like, you constantly have to be thinking about that stuff of like backups on top of backups on top of backups, to where it's like, now we're going to obviously make changes due to this issue, to where it's like, so now every week do we have to have a thing to where it's like, we back up our files every Friday on an external hard drive that's only connected to the internet one time. And that's just to do the backup on Friday, and then it gets taken away.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what I'm setting up now is that it's an external hard drive, but that's not connected to any internet. It's gonna be just here, and every Friday we're gonna back up all the data, and it's gonna back up to that, but that's not connected to anything else. So if anything happens, it happens, but everything, the most we will lose is a week worth of data.
That's what we did that after we had an issue a few years ago when our server host at that time had gotten hacked through an email account. Somebody found a backdoor to his stuff and hijacked all of his businesses, and ours included. So we started plugging it in and backing our stuff up on top of it. Those old files, where it's just like, yeah, man, you really gotta. Crazy world that we live in when that stuff happens.
So it's been a lot of fun. And add to that, we bought a lot a while ago, and it had a slab on it. The reason we bought it was because we felt, all right, it has a slab on it. We're gonna building on an existing slab. You know, it's gonna be much easier. All we got to worry about is building. Everything is there. We shouldn't have to deal with much crap from the city.
No. Just shouldn't have to deal with it. Like, went down to the city and verified we weren't gonna have any crap to deal with.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we tried to make sure that we weren't gonna have any shit with the city as far as, you know, anything that's already there, because, you know, it already had plumbing, already had electrical at one point because it was a house that had burned down. So it had all the major stuff. It was just building the house and re-tapping into all these things and activating all these things. So we felt that it was going to be much easier process than starting from scratch.
Yeah.
We got our drawings back. We got our architecturals, everything. We submitted to get our permits. And what was it that they said?
Oh, they flagged us and said that, like, hey, this it's zoned R5, and zoning R5 requires a 5-foot setback. Well, when the house was built, they were zero lot line, meaning that the slab in the house went all the way up to the lot line, to where we're within 6 inches of where our actual property stops. And
what's R5? Explain R5.
It's just a zoning code. Because I mean, you have R5, you have R1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have AE, you have all these different zoning codes.
But what does the 5 mean?
I don't even know what the 5 means.
Okay.
I think it's like you have to have like a minimum 5,000 square foot lot.
Right.
It usually has to do with relation to lot size, and then it's also what type of homes can be built on it, what size of homes can be built on it.
Right.
It basically tells you like what can be built on this lot, and it's a way for municipalities to control where development goes in a controlled manner, to where you don't have a strip mall or a strip club being built right next to a school.
Well,
or something
the
like
reason
that.
I wanted to clarify that is because there's a lot of times that you're buying a house, and I've seen this a lot with investors where they're buying a house and they say, hey, this house is big enough, I want to convert it into a duplex. I want to convert it into this, or this lot, I want to build 4 houses or 4 duplexes or whatever. And it's like, the zoning matters.
Yeah.
Is the zoning allowing you to do that? And
Yep.
that's why R5 or, you know, what is it, MF 33, you know, all these different types of zones, or CD, ZD1, IDZ, that bullshit in the historic areas. All those zoning parameters, they matter a lot, because if you're buying something just thinking, I bought it, I should put whatever I want on it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's also, I think Houston does it like they don't have zoning codes. So there are some cities that do have a Wild
Really?
West style. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm like, I've never verified, but I remember people talking like, yeah, Houston doesn't have zoning codes. And to me, like doesn't have zoning codes or just like has very basic zoning codes.
Right.
And I don't know to where it's like, but I can see why zoning matters to where it's like, hey, yeah, you don't want strip clubs and gas stations, truck stops going next to elementary schools, and you have this hodgepodge of stuff. But,
Strip club next to an elementary school is not allowed? What are the parents supposed to do?
Yeah, I know. No, but I mean, obviously, if Houston is correct, like it does work that way. And that's kind of the analogy where like the private sector and the public sector do mesh and do create a better quote unquote society or economic development plan.
All right. So taking that into account. So it's zone R5, but keep in mind, we already have the slab in place.
Yep.
So we need a 5-foot setback.
Yeah. They basically said, hey, you can't, it's a non-conforming, what you're trying to build is non-conforming to the zoning requirements. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, the slab was there. Like the house was built in the 1981. Like obviously it was designed to be a zero lot line. Like how did this happen? And I went down there, and originally what had happened is basically when they platted that from raw land to this development, they originally had turned it into townhomes, which townhomes allow you to, in the code, it says there is no front or side yard required, even though whatever the zoning is, as long as it's zoned, the PUD, they call it, Planned Utility Development, can't remember what it stands for, but allows you to build all the way up to the lot line. And then somehow in 79, somebody refiled a plat doing away with that townhome designation, but then somehow still was able to get through building zero lot lines. And that was the issue to where it's like, so how did they change away from the designation in 1979, but were able to build zero lot line in 1981? And now you're telling me I can't do that. And so as I use the analogy with them, is like, so you're telling me one of my neighbors' house burns down. They get an insurance check to rebuild their lifestyle, and you're going to stop them because they're non-conforming out of zoning codes. If more than 50% of the house is no longer there, they consider it new construction. Right. And you now have to conform to current codes. And the solution to that is you have to go with called a Board of Adjusters, a BOA, to request a variance because outside of this zoning to where it's saying, yes, we understand the zoning codes and you are non-conforming, but we're going to give you a variance for this specific property that you can go do this. Right. But I was arguing with them, like, and how long does that take? And they're like, well, you have to get it in by May 7th so you can be on the June 7th Board of Adjusters meeting. I was like, and how much does that cost? Like $600. So I was like, so this was a city issue back in 79, 81. Somebody screwed up during that, and all these got zoned R5, and they're non-conforming now. He goes, yeah, somebody screwed up. It's like, so okay, we admit that somebody screwed up, and this is where I get a little maniacal. And I was like, so the city screwed up, not you guys. I'm not blaming you personally or anything. You guys screwed up, but now you're telling me I, at my expense, have to pay $600 to fix your issue. And then have to wait a month and a half paying interest, holding costs, points, penalties, everything. Like I've borrowed the money to build this house because I came to you guys and specifically sat in this department and asked you, hey, am I good to build on top of this slab? And you're like, oh, you're just building on top of the same footprint? You should be good to go. Yeah, you're good. Green lights all the way. And as soon as I try to do that, you guys slap me with something. And then the guy was just like, I mean, I can't speak for, it's like very political, not like saying you're right kind of thing. And I was like, what can be done? Is like, how can this be fixed? And he's like, well, you have to go to the Board of Adjusters. Like, I get it, but like, you're telling me at my cost, you're screwed up. I just kind of kept saying the same problem or just different ways. And then he's like, well, let me do this. Let me send up the upper management, see if we can get something done. And the only thing he was able to do is that you have to go to the Board of Adjusters. That is what it's designed for, is for these kind of issues. I understand that it was a city's problem back then, but this is the city's solution to fixing these problems, like to grab more money. Got it. And basically he moved it up 2 weeks. He said, if you can get your application in by today, Thursday, I got it in last night. He's like, we can move you to the May 17th meeting of Board of Adjusters because they only meet twice a month. So he got me up to...
And that's, I think, what's been aggravating with this whole thing and what we keep talking about when they say, oh, there's such low inventory and everybody wants to blame the builders, these greedy builders and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's not greedy builders or anything. It's that, look at the all the hoops that they make you jump through, and this is deja vu all over again. This is the same shit we had going on with Hackberry, with our historic build, where we went first. Hey, this is what we're looking to do. This is everything, blah, blah, blah. Showed oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we want. That's perfect. And when you start the process, oh, well, that's a different department. Like, they just keep passing the blame from one department to the next, to the next, and next. But the ones that get screwed are us.
Yeah.
Because during the whole time, it's like,
well, no,
now
it's not even us,
look at
it's
the delay.
The end consumer, because it's like those costs get passed on straight to, like, you look at like builders right now, like home builders have much more leeway than we do. As far as like lumber prices went up, so they just cancel contracts and raise the prices. And for us, it's like we have to go by market factors of what other new builds are being sold in the area. We can't or control an entire division or subdivision on what it sells for. But yeah, that goes right to the end developer. Like the heavy regulation on these things is like, we would love to build affordable housing, but we can't afford to because of these issues. So,
and that's what gets, again, it gets very aggravating, because we try to go through, jump all the hoops, do everything. We're like we said before, we're not trying to cut corners, right? We're not trying to cut corners. We're not trying to do something illegal, or we're trying to follow your rules. But you don't know your rules. And then when we go to speak to somebody, they have a different interpretation of them, and they're not even the one that's even allowed to make the decision.
No.
It's some other department or somebody else, and we're stuck in the middle like, okay, guys, tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I'm not saying this is what I want, and you guys need to conform. We'll conform to what you want. But, I mean,
that's also one of the things that, like, I mentioned to you yesterday about the process and potentially, like, joining it, because, like, it's an opportunity as well. Like, when there's inefficiencies in things, you understand the rules, regulations, and processes better than other people, you can get things done.
Yeah.
To where now it's like, if I would have known this issue beforehand, I could have used this as more of a negotiation for buying this lot.
Of course.
Because we were not the first person to take a crack at this.
No.
Like, that actually fell out of contract 3 times before we found it and contract and bought it from the guy. And I'm betting that's what happened, is another developer tried to buy this thing and realized that there was this issue, and they backed out. And it's one of those, like, I spoke with some people that I know that have been through the process before, and described our situation and everything. And he's like, I was like, I can't tell you you're going to be good to go, but it makes sense because the city wants development. They're not trying to stop development, and you're building
what makes sense? It makes sense that we're good to go.
Yeah, it makes sense that we're good to go versus, because like the point of ripping down a perfectly good foundation to move it 5 feet, and it's not like you're moving a car that start an engine, move over, and this isn't one where we can just cut the concrete 5 foot off and put a new beam on it because it's tension rod. We cut those rods, the whole slab's gone.
Yep.
To where we would have to probably spend 30, 40, I mean, a new slab alone at that square footage is 20 grand.
Right.
But now we got to demo an old one. And it's not like you can bring a bulldozer in and just pick it up and just scrapple it and throw it away. Like, no, you got jackhammers, you got bulldozers, you got things that you got to get that foundation out of the ground.
Yep.
Or you're probably looking at 30, 40, 50 grand to do all that work, all the new plumbing and everything, to where it's like, it makes, because like if I told him, like, if you make us do that route, this lot's useless, and now it stays here undeveloped and looking like shit moving forward. He's like, I agree. It's like the city's not trying to stop development. They want development, but they want to get paid for development too.
Well, it's and this is not to be, I don't know, confrontational or anything, but it's one thing that we always talk about even with inspectors. Look, just tell us how much it's gonna cost for you guys to let us keep going, right? Yeah. Because I get it. It's a money grab for you guys. That's fine. I'll pay you the money. Just don't stop wasting so much time pandering, acting like it's not about the money. You understand? And then you come around and do the same shit anyway. So it's like, guys, can we just speed up the process? You know, I mean, it gets very aggravating. And this is what's always funny, is whenever we hear somebody that is not either living in the city or not doing this full time saying, oh, I'm going to build a house, or, oh, I'm going to flip a house. And they know nothing about building or flipping or anything. And it's like, these are the problems that arise. And like what did you have to do? It wasn't something that you send a very stern email to somebody. No, you have to physically go down there and get in their face and pretty much stomp your feet, right? Like, you got to be like, this is bullshit. this can't be allowed. Because if not, they're going to be like, what would have been the solution? They'll be like, one, either wait until June 7th. That's a whole other month. Two, demo the whole slab that's there, move it 5 feet, and build a brand new slab. An extra $30,000 worth of work, plus plumbing, plus everything else. I mean, the cost, I mean, now the driveway doesn't line up, so moving that shit too. I mean, you're talking about a massive expense now that's like, that was probably your profit, right? So it's looking at stuff like that that's like, if you're not here physically doing it, and trust me, you're investor-friendly GC, which I keep having idiot investors always ask for, they're not going to solve this for you. Like, nobody's going to give a damn about your money and your project more than you will.
They'll come in and say, oh, yeah, we can handle that. And then, well, they'll just blame on the city. It is the city being the gatekeeper to these things. Of course. But it's something that is frustrating when you just kind of go in there and you're like, you have to take this, and that's the risk that goes in with developing, building, and real estate. It's like there's no certainty. I mean, you can try to do as much due diligence as you possibly want, but there always can be somebody that's just like, nope, even through it. Because I'm sure there's going to be surprises. I'm sure there's going to be things, but it is a huge learning experience, and it is like I do see opportunity, and this is why we went further into new build, because a beginning investor isn't going to usually take on a brand new house. Their first investment deal.
They shouldn't.
But that's also why we moved into this space, is because of the potential opportunity and less crowded space and providing more inventory to the open market. So that is a space we want to move into, and it is good to be learning it. But
because it's even, with the historic home, everything that we learned down there, it's all right, well, next time we know what to at least ask for. We know what to make sure to watch out for. We know, more about zoning, more about, just because the slab is there doesn't mean that it's okay to build on top of it, apparently, right? Common sense isn't common practice. So as we learn more, we learn to protect ourselves more and make smarter decisions. And that's where other investors, that's why I always talk about, like, the biggest priority as an investor, especially as a new investor, is education. Not profit, right? Like, people value so much how much money they're making versus what are they actually learning. And if you're not learning anything new, then what the hell are you even doing? What's the point of doing this? You know what I mean? Because now you're never doing anything new. Market shifts, things change. You can't adapt. You don't know anything, because all you've been doing is chasing the money. So that's just this week, and we're only on Thursday. Very nice. With that being said, you are starting to pull some data together. We are on the 22nd, so at the end of next week, we will be posting the San Antonio market update.
Thank God we still can.
And one thing that I see is that you were telling me yesterday is 23 out of how many zip codes?
I think it was like 23 out of like 60-something zip codes.
60-something zip codes has their inventory fell again, well below 1 month of inventory.
23 zip codes have less than 1 month of inventory in all of San Antonio.
Yeah, and then you were talking about, like, there's even a few, some of the hottest ones are less than half a month of inventory.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just insane what we're seeing in San Antonio. I mean, this is something that I had it in here. I don't know if it was part of an article or what, but it's one of the things that Warren Buffett is quoted very famously for saying, when everybody is buying, that's when you sell. When everybody's selling, that's when you buy. Well, this is when you sell, and we have shifted a lot of our business to selling, because this is the type of market that's like, you list a house for 200 and they'll sell for 215, 220. Yeah. People are overbidding. People are overpaying. It's insane. Everybody is buying houses right now, and nobody is selling. So it makes the inventory even tighter, makes prices go up even higher, because you have supply and demand. More demand chasing less supply. So it forces that supply to go higher. So when we see everybody buying, we're selling. I mean, what else are you seeing with that, with the market update?
I mean, it's one of those, I was just trying to pull it up, it won't let me find it, but it was like across all of San Antonio, we were below 2 months of inventory. I think we're below a month and a half. It was like 1.26 or something like that. So insanely low. And then some of these massive, massive zip codes with less than a half a month of inventory.
Huh?
So we're like, my God, what happens with this? How long does this go on for? Like, what does it do? To where it's like, it pushes out your first time home buyer, the person that needs the credit,
sure.
the help, needs the FHA loan, needs the credit assistance, the down payment assistance. It's like, for me, like, I'm going to go to the person that's got the better credit that I feel like as an owner, as an agent, as a seller, like I would direct all my clients this way. Like, I'm going to go towards the more solid offer.
Yeah.
And what they believe is going to get the job done. To where an FHA buyer has the reason they're going FHA is where either they don't have enough money or their credit score is low.
Yeah.
And those two things do not make me confident that those two things can change a deal and let it fall apart. And there's more guidelines that'll go along with the house and the appraisal process.
Yep.
To where, like, normally we wouldn't list a house for 90 days. So all of our houses were FHA qualifiable. Now I'm like, I don't care. I want to get it on the market as fast as I can.
And not just, I don't care, but it's also, we almost don't want an FHA buyer because they come with a lot more stipulations and shit like that. That's like a conventional buyer not only can close quicker, they can pay more just to secure, where an FHA buyer, most of them are coming in with no money. They need assistance. They need help, right? So it makes it where it's like, well, yeah, maybe we're listing at 200 and it appraises for 200, but we have conventional cash buyers willing to pay 215, 220. And I mean, let's talk about what it is. We are a for-profit business, so that is profit, right? And it's not, oh, you greedy investors are pushing prices up. We are not pushing anything up. If the market wasn't there to pay for it, we would not be selling it.
Yeah. So if nobody is buying it, if we listed at 250 and nobody wants to buy it, we're not pushing that price up. If somebody offers 230 and it appraises for 230 and sells, that means the market was willing to pay 230.
And this is where the word of caution comes in for investors in the market, right? Where I keep hearing this time and time again. They're buying a house that doesn't make sense right now, but they're like, yeah, but by the time I'm done, it's going to be worth more. I'm like, unless you're Marty McFly and you're coming back from the future and you saw that happen, like, you just don't know. Like, we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know if in a month, for whatever reason, all of a sudden we get a flood of inventory in the market. Everybody just feels great, and they're like, we are all going to list our houses.
Yeah.
Your price, not only is it not going to sell for the ARV that you originally thought, which already didn't work, but you're probably going to have to sell for less than that, because that's how prices drop. It's not necessarily that, the market dropped, but it's that you do have investors or sellers that they're like, hey, I need to sell right now. Yes, the value is 190, but I need to sell quickly, so I'll sell it for 180. I'll sell it for 185. And that's how they do it, for 180, 185. The next person does it for 180, 175. And that's how the values go dropping, because people are selling for less just so they can get out of it quicker. So as investors, please, 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 if you're not making money right now as it sits, don't get into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pure speculation and gambling.
And it's really curious to see what's going to happen, because I finally got this to open up, and it is 1.26 months of inventory. And I'm looking at this, and
that's all of San Antonio. So just barely over a month.
So there was 3,133 sales last month, and there was 3,950 active as of April 1. This year so far. And I mean, that's heading into the buying season. And I'm just looking at these numbers. Like, we've been at extremely low inventory levels for quite some time, and the sales are picking up, and inventory is getting lower and lower and lower and lower as over the last several months.
Yeah.
So it's something that I don't see it getting better. I mean, one article to kind of shift it, I guess, a little bit towards some of our other topics. CDC says fewer than 6,000 fully vaccinated Americans contracted COVID after being obviously fully vaccinated. U.S. health officials have confirmed fewer than 6,000 cases of COVID-19 in fully vaccinated Americans. Center for Disease Control CDC Director Dr. Rachel Wanowski said Monday. That represents 0.007% of the 84 million Americans with fully protected against the virus. Despite the breakthrough infection, she said the vaccines are working as intended. With any vaccine, we expect such rare cases, but so far, out of more than 84 million people who are fully vaccinated, we've only received reports of less than 6,000 breakthrough cases. Although this number is from 43 states and territories and likely an understatement, it still makes a really important point. These vaccines are working. Of the nearly 6,000, approximately 30% had no symptoms as well. So they had it, but they still had no symptoms. So it shows that it is working, and that economies are going to open up. These variants that we keep hearing about obviously aren't causing new strains in these these vaccines that they've created to be rendered useless to fight it. So that is a very good sign. And I know there's still a lot of people we talked about. I mean, we're purchasing a house from a lady that she was scared to death, that she was elderly. And like, I've had people come into her house that she just didn't want that. So I've talked to other agents and other colleagues that we know in the industry that says, yeah, there are people that still don't want to sell their houses.
Yeah.
But now their problem is like, I didn't want people entering my house, so I didn't want to sell it. Now it's like, I want to sell my house, but I don't know where I'm going to move to, because I hear about these horror stories in the market of such low inventory, all these bidding wars and things like that. So I think it's going to be given some kind of external factor that just grinds the economy to a halt. I think it's going to be a very slow, long process to get inventory to climb. As in, it could take a year, could take 2 years, but it's definitely not going to be 1 month to the next that inventory just comes back and we start to normalize again.
Well, and that, to that point too, I mean, the biggest issue is it goes back to like, who's your buyer pool, right? Because inventory starts coming back, or for that inventory to come back, is they need to have an out. But a lot of the people that would like to sell their home or whatever, they've, a lot of them probably need to qualify for FHA or some form of financing that they can't qualify for right now. Their jobs, they lost their jobs. Their pay, their salary has gone down. There's a lot of people that have been hurting, that own a home, that won't sell because they're like, well, I live here and I can afford this. If I sell this, I won't qualify for anything.
Yeah.
So that affordability aspect of all this is what keeps hurting it. So it's kind of like almost like a catch-22. We have low inventory because people aren't selling, but then they can't sell because they have nowhere to go, which causes more low inventory and prices to get further away from them, right? So it's one of those things, like you're saying, what is that factor going to be that's going to give a boost to income and at the same time stabilize home prices long enough for that boost to take effect and for them to be able to afford to sell and buy the next home?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's happening with my neighbor right now. My neighbor, he has his home that we're helping him sell at the moment, and he doesn't qualify for a loan. And he's got a ton of equity in the house that he's going to be capturing, but he still won't qualify for a loan. So he's like, what the hell do I do? He's like, I can sell this, and he's going to have like, I don't know, like freaking 80K in equity. He's like, I didn't want to put that much down towards my next home, but I won't qualify for a loan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's those things that's like, what the hell happens? What's the answer here, right? We've heard how they want to raise minimum wage and they want to do all these, but that's not an answer.
Oh yeah, you're still not gonna be able to afford today's prices.
No, and as we keep having more refugees from California, New York, and all the coastal cities that are coming in with these massive paychecks, right? And they sell their homes over there for like freaking $800,000.
Yeah,
they're coming down here. They're outbidding anybody.
Yeah. I saw a little funny, like, I think it was a reel on Instagram or something like that. And then this guy goes, all right, it's like today's housing process. He goes, all right, everybody, I'm selling an apple. And the guy goes, well, what kind of apple is that? And he goes, you just sit there and this is how it's going to go. We're going to start the bidding at $5. He's like, $5? Why is it $10? $10? What are you talking about? It's just an apple. It was like, and I was like, can I see that? Nope, can't see the apple. We got it. It's an apple. What do you want? Somebody's $20. $20. What are you talking about? 30, 35, 50, 60, 100,000 or 100. And he goes, $100 for everything. I'm from California, and the guy's like 120, and he's like, why did I even do that? It's like just because the bidding wars of like people coming in
Yeah.
with cash and stuff, and it was pretty funny the way he shot the video.
Well, and that's kind of even almost like the whole NFT thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you look at it, and this is an article I had for last week, but I didn't think we were gonna get into it this week. But you brought in a nice little segue to it.
Boom.
Yeah,
I
there you
meant to
go.
do that.
But the title was, not very surprisingly, NFT prices are now crashing. So according to a recent report
That was quick.
by nonfungible.com, the NFT marketplace tracker, the value of NFTs has collapsed by almost 70% from its peak in February. Earlier this year, blockchain-based digital certificates that give individuals exclusive ownership over a piece of digital art, no matter how many times it gets copied. Let these words sink in as you're listening, okay? So you're getting exclusive ownership of a digital art piece, regardless of how many times it's gotten copied, exploded in popularity, with some works being sold for the equivalent of millions of dollars.
Oops.
In one piece in particular created by digital artist. Now we have digital artist, Beeple. That's his name, Beeple. Stole headlines when it sold for $69 million at internationally renowned auction house Christie's. But the market for NFTs has slowed significantly since those heady days, with the individual NFTs now going for an average of $1,400 as compared to $4,300 during their peak in mid-February. The drop in the value of NFTs shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. Many of these assets are being sold using cryptocurrencies, which are inherently unstable and tend to fluctuate wildly over time. But now the novelty has worn off, and more people are questioning what they're actually getting for their money. Those who sell NFTs will have a harder time winning over the hearts of investors and collectors. This is something that we talked about when we first heard it, that it took me a while to wrap my head around, because not that I don't understand what an NFT is, it took me a while to wrap my head around why it has
Value.
any value whatsoever.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like an athlete saying, "Oh, I'm going to sell my highlight reels. So you're going to be the exclusive owner of my highlight reel."
But you can still go watch them all over YouTube.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And people were, like they said, like they were paying stupid amount of money over these things. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a place for NFTs. I get it. I understand. It's piggybacking off of the whole cryptocurrency, off of Bitcoin, off of that whole premise that, it's people that bring the value together and give value to something. But it just, influencers jumped on it quick, and they were selling garbage for so much money. You know what I mean? And people with all the stimmy checks and all the shit that's been going on, they've been putting in all of their money into speculating and Dogecoin and Bitcoin and this coin and that coin and NFTs and that NFT, and it's going to be worth more. And
well, that's the thing, like the Dogecoin thing, like it actually serves no economic purpose. It was created as a joke off of a meme. And
yeah, because it's a picture of like a husky, right? Like smiling, like some stupid little thing.
Yeah, and like so now its only value is that somebody else thinks this little funny coin is worth more, but it actually is something that's like, but it does have some form of value. It's like people are buying
Musk
it.
tweet about it? Like, wasn't he promoting it too?
He just put like Dogecoin in a rocket ship emoji. And then everyone's like, oh my God, everyone's buying Dogecoin. And it's just because, but it is something that it's like, it could hold value. It was the first joke meme cryptocurrency out there, and enough people bought it and thought it had value that it kind of could have value long term.
But that's the thing, right? Like, it has value because people think it has value. It's artificial, doesn't exist, it's not tangible. You can't even like pretty much buy anything with it. You have to convert it to dollars or just something of actual value, of something that can be traded. And
it's just like Bitcoin though. Like you can't buy anything in Bitcoin without paying taxes on it. Like,
Well, not paying taxes. I'm saying like that you can't go directly to a supermarket and buy
yeah, I mean, you could do
groceries
that. Yeah,
with
you
your
could do that with
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin and stuff like that, but you
Right.
still have to pay taxes, even though you paid in Bitcoin, which just sucks.
What do you mean you have to pay taxes?
Like if you paid, say you bought Bitcoin at 20,000,
Yeah.
and you go to try to buy a piece of something, go buy something at the grocery store, and it's now 60,000, you have a realized capital gain of 3x, and you have to pay taxes on that gain, even though you bought a product with it.
Well,
You still have to pay.
but you have to
taxes
pay taxes if you sell 60,000 worth.
No.
But you, what do you mean? If I go to the grocery store and I spend $10 at the grocery store, what the hell does that have to do with me paying taxes?
Because that's what I was telling you. Like the U.S., like they're still going to tax the piss out of us, even if you're transacting a Bitcoin and you bought it at 20,000 and it's now worth 60,000, and you go buy something with that Bitcoin, the U.S. government wants their cut of that gain, because the tangible asset that you purchased did not go up in value, but your value of your thing went up against the U.S. dollar, and they will tax you on that gain.
But they okay. So explain.
How do they track that? I don't know.
They tax you on the gain regardless when it comes time to taxes. What does it matter if you use the money or not? If you use the Bitcoin, like they're gonna tax you on that 60 gain regardless.
Yeah, that's just saying you didn't have to convert it to dollars to go buy that piece of bread or buy a loaf of bread.
Right.
You bought it in Bitcoin.
Right.
But since Bitcoin appreciated so much, they want their tax value on that gain for that loaf of bread.
Mm.
Because the Bitcoin,
For the loaf of bread.
yeah. So if you transact with Bitcoin completely in the United States, they want to know how much did you pay for that Bitcoin to how much is it worth now that you're buying this good in the US. And they will tax you on that difference as a capital gain. How they're going to track that, I have no idea. But
Well, everything is digital. Everything has. I mean, that's even the. I guess the upside and the downside of Bitcoin is based on the blockchain.
yeah,
You can see everything on the blockchain. You can see when you transferred it, why, where, how, who.
Yep.
Everything is documented. That's why, like before, they were saying, oh, Bitcoin is being used by drug lords and all these. It's like, well, then those drug lords are kind of screwed because you can see exactly.
Like you figure out their wallet, and it's like, I just discovered everything.
Yeah, you look at the blockchain, which is open source, and you can see exactly where the money came from and where it went.
Yeah. So that was the crazy thing about it, is like they will still tax you on that gains. Like even if you try to buy Bitcoin and transact only in Bitcoin, like every time you buy and sell, like you have a capital gain and a capital loss of that value.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, unless you're buying like a lot of it.
And if you buy it in a Roth.
Oh, there you go. Buying a Roth. I don't know how you're going to transact with that, but yeah. It's just the complexity of like how these things are, to where like everyone thinks, oh, it's the way of the future. Like U.S. government is not going to let control go to where if it becomes a problem just like that, they know your wallet and they can go back and say, well, you bought it at 20, you haven't bought anything again. We're going to implement first in, first out rule.
Yeah.
So your most appreciated asset has to be the first one that you sell versus the first in, what is it? Last in, first out kind of deal to minimize the gain.
So I want you guys to go into the chat and I want you to tell me, if you bought Bitcoin, if you own Bitcoin, why do you own it? Like, what made you get on Bitcoin? And if you haven't, why not? I'm very interested in seeing people's psychology on this, on their thought process on why own Bitcoin and why not own Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Because I believe we talked about it last week, but to me, Bitcoin, I do see it as a store of value, because the market adaptation that it's, man, English is just not working for me today. The market adaptation that Bitcoin has received in the last decade proves that it's like, all right, this thing is really doesn't seem like it's going to be able to go away. And it doesn't seem like it can be even taken down. Could they tax the shit out of it and all that? Yeah, I'm sure they're going to try. But just like everything, people are going to find ways to still get it done, right? So I see it. I do see it as a store of value. I see it kind of like almost owning digital gold, right? Not a derivative of gold, but like gold in a digital format. Mm-hmm. That's how I see Bitcoin. But I don't see it as instead of. I see it as a diversification of your investments.
Yeah.
Be clear here. We're not giving financial advice. We're not accountants, attorneys, veterinarians, chefs. Actually, I'm pretty decent as a chef, but we're not.
I don't have a culinary degree.
Yeah, we don't have a culinary degree. But that being said, The way I look at Bitcoin is just another basket to diversify into, right? So you have a little bit of Bitcoin, you have a little bit of physical gold, you have real estate, you have some cash, you have some guns and ammo, you have food, you know what I mean? That's how I look at Bitcoin, in that category.
Yep.
I don't look at it as an investment. I don't look at it as a speculation. I don't look at it as a trade. I look at it as you set a certain amount of money every month, you allocate to buying Bitcoin, whatever price it is, it doesn't matter, because you're buying it as a preservation of your wealth. In case anything happens, anything was to move or whatever, you have a little something to protect you, right? That's how I see it. But there's a lot of people that are looking at it like, oh, I'm going to buy it now, and when it goes to 100,000, I'm going to sell, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, if it goes to 100,000, you're selling into dollars, but dollars they're really not worth that much anymore. That's why Bitcoin went up so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
So
it's losing the faith in it. And I mean, people are gaining faith and then losing faith at the same time as far as the relative amount of dollars and liquidity out there in the market. And that's what it creates, is like cash goes somewhere.
yeah.
Like it's got to find a place to go. And then right now it's finding NFTs, cryptocurrencies, real estate, stock market. I mean, it's going really pretty much everywhere but bonds, and the government or the Fed's the one buying them all.
Yeah.
So
with that being said, we talked about taxes and stupid people. So what about this wash sell rule? What the hell is this? What happened?
this was crazy.
This is a fun story.
So I was listening to one of my normal podcasts that I listen to every week, and there was like a little about a 10-minute segment from it. And it was talked about financial planners. It was a financial planning podcast. And he was talking about a guy that had this $800,000 tax bill. So and I found an article on Forbes that talked about this, and it was a Robinhood trader faces an $800,000 tax bill. Over 8 million people opened new brokerage accounts in the first 3 quarters of 2020. While the thrill of enormous stock gains may have provided a much-needed distraction for some during the pandemic, unintended tax consequences are now manifesting for newbie investors. In one jaw-dropping case, a Robinhood newbie is facing a potential bill of $800,000 despite only making a net gain of $45,000. He had between $200,000 and $2 million in trading volume per day, completing between 10 to 50 trades daily, according to Morningstar. And this is a quote from a financial planner that got a text from this guy. Is a young man calls me and says he opened a brokerage account with $30,000 in 2020. He transacted 45 million. Yeah, that's right. $45 million in total trades for a net profit of $45,000 by year end. He recently received his 1099, which was 500 pages long. Normally they're like 5, 10, but every time he did a trade was a single line, exit trade, single line, 500, a ream of paper of just transactions. And as he input that into his TurboTax, and he had a $1.4 million in capital gain income and a tax bill of just over $800,000. This poor soul traded all of the popular stocks you see in the media consistently all year long. He never knew anything about the wash sale rule. He booked a profit, but was disallowed all the losses because he never once waited 30 days on those stocks to book the loss. So the wash rule is an Internal Revenue Service regulation that prohibits somebody from claiming a loss by selling and purchasing either the same or similar security within 30 days of the sale at a loss. To comply with the rule, investors must wait at least 31 days before repurchasing the same investment. So example, he jumped into GameStop and then lost a bunch of money and then jumped out. So now he could have, and say it was at $100 and it dropped to $80. So you have a $20 loss. So if he would have waited 31 days before he jumped back in, he could claim that loss. But since he jumped back in immediately, in and out, he eliminated that wash sale rule until where if he jumped out at the $80 and then jumped back in at $75 the next day and it rose to $100, you're going to get taxed. And then he sells it again to get that, what would be the net gain of $5. but then jump back in it again,
Yep.
he can't claim any of those losses, but he still has that $25,000 profit from 75 to 100 when he exited, jumped back in, and he can't claim it from when it dropped to 100 to 80 because he jumped in and out. And that's how he had $1.4 million in gains, because at December 31, 2020, he had an open position in with some of these stocks, because he was jumping in and out so much. And so he couldn't claim any of the losses. He only had a net gain of $45,000, but he has an $800,000 tax bill because he did not exit those trades, to where, yes, he will eventually be able to claim those losses. So he closed his position in, say, January 2021. He will not be able to claim those losses until January 1 of 2022. So that tax bill is still real for 2020. The problem with that is he worked at a job only making $60,000 a year. So he doesn't have $800,000, where the government's not going to like him. And I think it's like, if you have over $50,000 in loan outstanding to the government, like tax bills, they'll start leaning all of your stuff.
100%.
And can come back and start taking things from you because you
just
owe
wonder
them
what
money.
does he have for lien? Like, I mean, at $60,000 a year, like, what does he have that they could actually lien?
I don't know. And like, I was looking at that, and it's like, he has to live like $800,000 on 1.4 million. It's like, that's over 50%. It's like, so he's had to live in like California or New York that has insanely high income taxes. So the government's going to start could start coming after these things. I realized that he could probably play the innocency card. They're not going to come start taking all his tax bills, like avoiding taxes. They'd probably just confiscate the broken account or something like that.
I would start, first of all, I would start filing extensions after extensions to not file my taxes.
Well, the problem is you could do that, but that bill is still real. So when you do file your losses, you owe the back interest on not filing. Even though you're filing extensions, you still owe the money. You're just not being penalized.
The interest is still collecting from what, like May 15th or whatever?
The tax date. You just don't,
I didn't know
they're just not going to come after you and try to like penalize you more, but like the interest is still due. So an entire year.
Do you know what the interest is?
It's like so many percentage points over prime, which is basically 0 right now. But it's still like, I think it's so like 4 or 5%. Like,
so 4 or 5%. Let's call it 4% on $800,000.
Call it 5 for simple math. That's $40,000 in taxes, or $40,000 in interest only.
Interest over what period of time? Like
a year. So 10% would be 80,000. 5% would be 40,000.
But 40,000 in taxes in a year. So it's 5% annualized interest.
Yeah. So I mean, it's over the month. So basically, it's not compounding or anything like that. But so the next
40
year,
grand per year, pretty much in interest, divided by the 12 months, and that's what he's paying. He would have to pay monthly interest.
So if he does the extension, by the time he goes to file his taxes to claim those losses, so they don't come leverage and lean all of his stuff and start taking things, which they very well could, and to capitalize on the loss.
Like forced sales, right? Like
forced sales. I mean, that's like somebody avoiding income tax, and they come like Wesley Snipes or anything.
His name was?
No, they didn't disclose his name. He was only a 30-year-old kid.
Oh, so he probably doesn't even own a home, because I was like, that's the guy you need to be marketing to now.
Yeah, right.
He's
so you can do those extensions,
seller.
and you can he'll be able to deduct all those losses and stuff, and to remove the $80,000 tax bill, but that still doesn't get rid of the $40,000 in interest that you have.
I used to do day trading. What was it, like 10 years ago, more or less? That was like one of my first starts in the entrepreneurial world. Is I started doing day trading, but even then, like, my foundation into investing was Rich Dad Poor Dad. As cliche as that is, that book has been the fundamental to all of my investing decisions moving forward from that moment on, because it's been always thinking like Kiyosaki always talks about, you know what I mean? Be smart, be patient, invest for the long term, think through things, right? And I read like pretty much all of his books. Yeah. Every book that he had come out with, I read them all. I studied the psychology of it. I and not only just studied it, but it clicked with me. It was something that just made sense, and I agreed with. Huh?
You're not the only one it clicked with.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, there's a lot of people that follow, you know, the douchebag Grant Cardone, or what's that other one that's always like showing his house and his cars? Ty Lopez, that moron. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh my God, they're so cool. I like their hair. And to me, it's like they're idiots. Yeah, they make money because they sell fluff. But like Kiyosaki is boring because to me, I like his way of investing. sound stable. So that was my foundation. So when I started doing day trading, the first thing I did was go speak to an accountant. Hey, how's day trading handled? What are the tax implications? I even asked him, do I need an LLC for this? Do I need to run it as a business?
Yeah.
We went through everything. And a lot of those questions, knowing what I know now about business, it's like, okay, yeah, those were kind of stupid questions, but I didn't know any better. But I went to the professionals to find that shit out instantly, right? Nobody's doing that. Right now, people are speculating like crazy, not understanding what the repercussions are, not understanding, and not just the stock market is by far one of the biggest parts. Robinhood has made it so easy for people to day trade. Back when I was doing it, I mean, you had a minimum to open up an account. And with that minimum, you had a limited amount of resources that you can actually invest in, because there were other things that they're like, no, you're too new to invest in something this creative or this strategy or that strategy. You can't leverage. You can't do this amount of trades. You can't, open all this without having the money to back it. So like you can't do a lot of this kind of things without being able to back certain things, right? And even if you had a huge windfall, like they still wouldn't let you deploy like the whole thing and leverage or any of that stuff. But now with Robinhood, with all this, like it's making it so easy for people to get into trouble. And now, please hear me on this. I am not saying we need regulations, okay? If you've heard any of these episodes, I'm extremely against all forms of regulation. What I am saying is that you need to take ownership yourself of what you invest in. You need to want to know the ins and out of what you invest in. You need to know how to protect yourself, how to protect your money. What are the repercussions? If you don't care to learn those things, to find those things out, a lot of these things can be found out right now. Simply, not even a Google search. You can do a YouTube search and you'll have great videos by accountants, attorneys, everybody telling you, here are the implications, here are the problems.
Here's
a 5-minute video, right? Like it can at least give you a good little idea of like, how bad can this really get?
Yeah.
So it's on you to do this. And people don't. People are so lazy. People are just following them like they're TikTok. Sheep. They're just sheep.
Like TikTok. Yeah. You just buy a stock and it goes up.
Buy a stock that's going up.
And you make money.
Yeah. Buy a stock that's going up and then sell it when it stops. And that's how we fund our whole lifestyle. I quit my job. I'm like, holy crap. So when that strategy stops working, what do? You just lost everything. Because people like that don't do it like very securely, where they're like, oh no, let's be conservative. With the people that are getting in trouble are saying, here's all my money. Kind of like that podcast interview that we heard of this gentleman, what's his name? Pomp something. He has his own podcast too. But it's Andrew Schultz is the host of this podcast. It's called The Range too, I think it's called. Something like that. But great podcast, great interview that he talked about all about Bitcoin. And he says, he's like, I'm 96% in Bitcoin. Like, and you're 100% idiot. Like, why would you be? I wouldn't be 96% in anything, not even real estate.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and if I shut off your power, you're broke. Like, the internet goes down, you're broke. Yeah. Like,
somebody hacks something.
Yeah.
And you're gone.
You're done. So, I mean,
like, then you don't have insurance. You have FDIC insurance on your bank accounts and your brokerage accounts. You have all these things that companies are liable, but like somebody hacks Bitcoin, ain't nobody coming to replace your Bitcoin.
Well, one thing is that we had a comment here from Brian Pauling that he says, I can't touch it or hold it. Governments will take control. You've already covered it by taxing. It's inconvenient as a person to person. If I had it in a hand, Starbucks, if I hand Starbucks $5 bill, I get a coffee. Transaction complete. So I get what you're saying, Brian, but here's my thing, how I look at it, and and I'm sure you share the same way, is that just because it's not something that you can touch or maybe you don't like, does not mean that you shouldn't be a little bit exposed to it, especially when it's proven this level of track record, because I think that that kind of mindset could get you into trouble, especially as the world keeps changing. As we keep seeing, is the world, we actually read a book on like exponential growth, and the world, it took how long to invent the TV? Then it took how long to go from like a TV with 3 channels to multiple channels, from black and white to color, then from color to flat screen, then or to big screen, then to flat screen, then from flat screen that was the plasmas. I remember it was this like heavy ass fucking TV. We had to reinforce the wall to
$10,000,
hang
yeah.
it.
And then if you left it frozen for too long, like it
Yeah.
would burn the screen.
Or like
image
yeah,
on the
and
screen.
the freaking like if you had the plasma that would start glitching, and oh man, it was funny. But from plasma to LED, from LED to 4K, 4K to 8K, every time we go from one to the next, it's almost like half the time and even less.
Yeah.
Right? Where now it's like almost every year something new is coming out. So that's exponential growth. Technology is doing that. So if you right now are saying no because of whatever, it's not tangible, it's not this, it's not that, you got to understand we're not moving backwards in technology, we're moving forwards. So eventually you're going to have a tough time in this world. Like unless you plan on dying next week, which please sir, don't, we like you, we care about you. But unless you're planning on like, this is it, I'm kind of done, you need to start embracing these things. That being said, I don't believe that you should go all in on anything, right? We discussed that. But yeah, so as far as that goes, Brian, I think you should open your mind a little bit more to it, maybe dabble in it a little bit, try to understand it a little bit more, and just look at it as an investment. Don't look at it as, it's not tangible, it's stupid, only kids are buying it or whatever it is. Like, look at it for what it is. Do I think it's overvalued? 100%. I think the only reason it's this high is because everybody got a stimmy check and they all dumped it into a stock that was going up.
Yep.
That I do feel like it's going to come down.
Oh, I mean, you have Elon Musk coming out there and buying 1.5 billion worth of it, and
yeah,
for Tesla.
And credit, we talked about it before. Credit card companies are, going doing cashback returns in Bitcoins. There's a lot of things. A lot of companies are embracing it and everything. But I still think it's overinflated by people that are speculating, and when anything shifts in the market, those speculators are going to be the first ones to jump ship because they're emotional, right? Yep. They're going to get scared. So I do think it's going to take a hit, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you need to understand that this thing it's pretty good. It looks like it's here to stay. It looks like it's, can it be taxed? Can it be done? Oh, 100%. Gauge yourself, protect yourself against that. If it's going to be taxed, invest it in a Roth IRA. Open up a Roth, open up some form of tax haven like that, and then it can grow in there tax free. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, strategies that can be done and implemented. With that being said, you wanna talk about all right.
Yeah, let's do that.
He's I like him. I think he's a cool guy. I think he has a lot of swag.
He's a Texan.
He's a Texan, right? So Texas, born and raised, and became a pretty good actor. Matthew McConaughey may be a viable candidate for Texas governor. So when I read this, I was like, what the freak of nature? I was like, he's running? I didn't know. It doesn't seem like he is officially running.
Yeah,
but
I know he's touted at it.
Yeah, he has made some hints at it and everything, and he's right now a professor at
UT
in Austin. And so, and he's gotten a little bit more political over the last couple of years. He's spoken a little bit more, and with the whole being a professor thing and everything, he's done a little bit more. He's gotten into it. And I don't know who started the rumors initially. And then he was asked, I believe it was on Jimmy Fallon. And he's like, no, like every actor, right? At first it's like, no, I don't want to do that shit. And then like they sit on it a little bit and then they start thinking and it's like, well, maybe, I don't know.
Maybe I actually could do that.
So Matthew McConaughey leads Governor Greg Abbott 45% to 33%. That's huge. That's a huge margin. But his middle of the road appeal may not open an easy path for him to November's finale. Exports warns. Experts. Exports. It's it's the New York accent there.
All right.
But Matthew McConaughey commands more support to be Texas' next governor than incumbent Greg Abbott, according to a poll released Sunday by Dallas Morning News and the University of Texas at Tyler. However, the film actor and political newcomer could hit potholes in either major party's primary if he enters next year's governor's race, the poll found. For months, McConaughey has tested political pundits. That's what I meant. McConaughey has teased. I'm telling you, I just need bigger text. McConaughey has teased political pundits and TV talk show hosts with musings that he might enter politics in his home state. If he were to take a plunge and run for governor, the poll found 45% of Texas registered voters would vote for McConaughey, 33% would vote for Abbott, and 22% would vote for someone else. I love how 22 are like, no, screw both of them. I'm voting for whoever else is going to run against them.
I don't like either.
I don't even know who that is, but I'll vote for them. Shit, we might run. We already got 22%. Yeah. McConaughey's double-digit lead over the two-term Republican incumbent is significant. The poll conducted April 6th through the 13th surveyed 1,126 registered voters and has a margin of sampling error of plus or minus 2.92% points. So, I mean, not a crazy margin either. But 56% of Republican voters said they'd vote for Abbott, compared with only 30% for McConaughey, while Democrats broke 66% to 8% for McConaughey, not a surprise, and independents 44 to 28. More than twice as many Democratic primary voters, 51%, said they wanted a progressive candidate for governor than wanted a centrist. So 51% want a progressive candidate over a centrist. That's telling right there. You know what I mean? That the fact that I would venture, like, I want to know where this 1,100 registered voters came from. Was it like all from like university kids, or was it
Democratic primary voters? 51% said they wanted a progressive candidate.
Yeah,
those Democratic people saying they wanted somebody more progressive than a centrist. Not everybody.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Democratic. Okay. Yeah. But still, I mean, they want, they want to keep going more progressive versus centrist, which is what you think everybody would want, is somebody that's more in the middle. Yeah. Not further to one side or the other.
Well, that is true. Like if you pulled 20 to 25-year-olds at a university, it's like, yeah, their voting does go for being more progressive towards things because they haven't been smacked around by real life yet.
Yeah, and McConaughey, he does consider himself more as a moderate, because I'm curious, like, where does he fall? And I think he kind of falls in the same place where we fall, right? Where it's like we don't consider ourselves Republican or Democrat. We think they're both doing terrible things because it's all political and not anything for the people. So what do you think about this? What do you think about McConaughey running for governor? Would you vote for him? Like, I don't know. What do you think?
It's just like, and it's the same thing with like The Rock. I got an article pulled up for him too, of just like, all right, your entire career is being an actor. What do you know about politics and business and private sector versus public sector and conjoining the two and getting things done? Like, your entire career is in some other field, but now you're saying you're going to enter this new field and be successful at it. I mean, Schwarzenegger did it in California. And I remember talking to my uncle a long time ago. There was like, yeah, I had really hopes for Schwarzenegger, but after his first term, because he went in, they repealed one other governor, and he snuck in and then won a second term. But he's like, he really didn't do much. He got really kind of locked up the political system and stuff. So I don't know. I'd want to hear their values and what they think and what they're trying to do, and then I don't know how that would work. It just like, because you have no party connections. You have to get lawmakers to do certain things. You have to talk to business communities. You got to understand what the needs of the people and the business community and do what's right for the overall both. You have to blend that and not be heard by one side or the other. And like these corporations have big money. They have lobbyists that know how to work the system, and you get somebody new in there that doesn't know how the system works. It's how you can take advantage of the system. So I don't know.
I mean, this is also assuming that if Matthew McConaughey was to run, or even The Rock, right, for that matter, that they're running and saying, you know, we're completely by ourselves, making all decisions. We have no advisors whatsoever that have the experience, right? Which I doubt that would happen. It's kind of like that famous example when that reporter was interviewing Henry Ford, and he says, well, what the hell do you know about this to be owning such a massive company? What do you know about this part or that part or this part? And he's like, he points to his phone in the thing. He's like, you see all these buttons? What question do you have? I can hit a button and get you that answer. Yeah. You know, I don't need to know everything. I'm the head. I have the people that know everything, right? Yeah. So I think they could have a group of trusted advisors, people that maybe they feel reflect what they believe in, advising them on what the right process would be for all these things.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, people.
Yeah, that being said, like my appeal to McConaughey or The Rock or people like that is I try to look at their character over anything else, right? Yeah. Because you say, oh, what do they have to run? Well, look at the politicians that are running now. They're morons. Like, yeah they've been in office for, Biden's been in office for 47 years. The hell does he know, though? Like, I mean, he just knows how to stay in office, right? So it's the same with all of these. Like, when you have politicians that keep it going there, like, they lose all contact with the people. Yeah. They don't know what the hell the people want. They don't know what the hell the people need because they're always in Washington or doing political campaigns or raising money. Like, they're not paying attention to what it is. Where I think somebody that's outside of that political space, it could be either really good or really bad in the sense it's like, well, they don't know shit. And you can tell, you know what I mean? And they're making one mistake after another. Or it could be like they just run it with more common sense. And like, wait, you know, I get that's how it's done.
They
but
are
that doesn't make
connected
sense.
more to the people, I would say, than some politicians. Because like they obviously have huge fan bases that more than any politician usually has. I mean, The Rock, I mean, the number of followers that he has on this, and McConaughey, the same thing. So where it is their character and their connections to people and caring for what needs to be done. And I think, I mean, this just goes to show it's like the reason Trump won in 2016, they were tired of seeing career politicians. And it's like, and now that's why you have these people coming out to where this Newsweek article for The Rock has said at least 46% of Americans would support a presidential run from Dwayne The Rock Johnson. As like, they're like, we're trying, the free market, the voters are trying to find somebody else. Yep. They want somebody else. But the way our political system is set up to where it's like you have two parties that aren't going to relinquish control, to where there isn't really an avenue for an independent person to really come up and raise money and spend the kind of money that these two parties have. Like, you really almost have to kind of go between the two if you want that power behind them, the corporations, the money to get into power, not be suppressed.
Let's look at, like, I'll be curious to know, like, what is all that money really for that they're being bought for? You know, when these politicians are paid by all these other companies and everything to run for president and all that, where is that money really going to for that political candidate as they run, right? Is it going for marketing? Is it going for branding? Stuff like that. If it is, you're The Rock. Like,
I mean, it could be. Like, a huge
you
disruptor.
literally just go live on your own channel on Instagram, and you'll have millions of people watching instantly.
Well, then it's like, also, you talk like the ability that he has to manipulate social media to his advantage. Like, that is one thing where I could see social media being a difference. It's the equalizer, where you don't have to go onto TV, where like literally like you can't even get in front of people to raise money to compete with the RNC or the DNC in the political ad space on television. Yeah. Nobody even watches television anymore. It's like, it's all social media. Like, that Trump utilized it perfectly and executed it perfectly in 2016.
Well, and I think too is that you're going to, with people like them, with the influence that they have, even if you say, oh, the Senate, Congress, everybody, they came together to go against them to make sure they don't screw up their nicely knitted system that they have. Like, if The Rock can rally over 50% of the country, like, you're going to have a very
Yeah,
freaking tough time.
46%. But it's also one of the things like The Rock, like you watch him talk, like he's a very nice, approachable guy, but like immediately if he runs, 50% of the country is going to hate him. Like there's going to be a lot of people that immediately now have to dislike him, and he has to play that game that he's worked so hard to not take a stance and go either way on everything. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see. Did you see what he wrote as far as the response on Twitter when the so basically he's after this news article broke, he put a tweet out about it, and he's like, not sure our founding fathers ever envisioned a 6'4", bald, tattooed, half black, half Samoan, tequila drinking, pickup driving, fanny pack wearing guy joining their club. But if it ever happened, it'd be my honor to serve the people. And then he put like the praying face, strong, and then the American flag. I think it's like I would just like. It would just be so funny to see The Rock standing next to all these politicians of like the dude from Canada or the people from China. Like he's huge. He works out. He's massive. And like you see like a picture, it's like all these like politicians that are kind of just like body wise just kind of worn out. And you got The Rock just like jacked. Like there's the American dream of just like, you always get the picture of the eagle with its wings spread over and stuff like that. It's like, we got The Rock standing up here. This is 290-pound ball of meat.
Wow.
And where, like, what would they do with
Talk
him?
about a man crush. Holy shit.
It'd just be funny to see. And then also, like, what would it, because he has that he built out his home gym. Yeah. And he's always working out and posting videos from. Like, are they going to turn a portion of the White House into like a gym? Like, what would that look like if you had the U.S. taxpayer pocketbook? Like, what would you be allowed to do as far as a gym in the White House?
I just can't wait for the news to be like, can you smell what the president is cooking? So who would you vote for? Put it in the chat. Would you vote for The Rock? Would you vote for McConaughey? If they were to run McConaughey for governor of Texas, The Rock for president of the U.S., would you vote for them? What are your thoughts? I'm curious to see what you guys think about this. And look at it with an open mind. Don't look at it like, oh, this is stupid. Like, really look at it, because I mean, we've seen a lot of stupid things actually take effect. So everything is always possible here.
I mean, one thing I wanted to get into as well, a little local news of San Antonio. It's like right now we have an elections going on. So if those of you live in San Antonio don't know that, like, go register to vote and get out and vote. Because I think the May 1st is the elections for several propositions and city council and for mayor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But Nuremberg came out and he stated, this is by the San Antonio Business Journal, that, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, of the roles between private and public sector as far as like economic development. So mayor wants private sector to lead San Antonio's new economic strategy. Is the titles. Like, if San Antonio is going to close the lead other cities have gained in the high-stakes race to land companies, jobs, and talent, it's going to need serious help from the private sector, according to Mayor Ron Nuremberg. We need the private sector, which is vast and diverse, to get into the driver's seat and creating jobs and growing business. Nuremberg said the public sector does have a role, but it doesn't have the only role. In fact, it probably doesn't even have the primary role. The San Antonio Economic Development Foundation is crafting a new strategic plan aimed at improving the region's ability to better compete with other Texas markets and with cities outside the state, including Denver, Kansas City, Nashville, Phoenix, Seattle, and others. Stacked up against several of those cities, San Antonio ranks low in economic performance, quality of life, and education attainment. San Antonio's EDF's 5-year plan would deliver 140,000 new jobs and $55 billion economic impact to the region over that period. Its leadership projects the plan would cost $39 million to execute. What is your take on that, as far as him saying that the public sector does not have a primary role and it should be the private sector that drives the economic strategy, which seems contrary to the way that they govern the city?
I mean, that's exactly it, right? Like, it seems very contrary to everything that they're doing. That usually all the laws, everything, like, it's against the public sector. And now it was kind of one of those things that upset me when even Abbott did it, when he recently said, oh, Texas is open, and here it's on the businesses whether you let people in or not. It's like you can't like pretty much chop off the balls of the businesses and then say, okay, now it's on you. Go figure it out. Like, well, you took it from me first, and now you bring it back to me and make me look like the asshole if I do let people in or don't let people in or require masks or don't require masks. Like, you put so much pressure on me as a business, right? Where everything they do, like, it affects the public sector. It affects, private businesses. So do they have a place? 100%. They're the ones that provide the majority of the jobs. They provide all the economic that the city generates. So it's like, I don't know what, it's politics. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't see him doing shit about it. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it's also he's up for election, so it's like,
That's
we
all-
want the private sector
it's
to take
just
control
talk.
of this. We want them to do this, but behind closed doors, once I'm elected, I'm going to run it the way I want to run and try to control businesses.
and that's kind of what I look at. And not so much like vote this way or vote that way. It's just, you're talking this, but let's look at what you've actually done, though. You know what I mean? Like, your policies don't reflect what you're saying.
Yeah.
They haven't.
I mean, he's a 2-term mayor at this point, so
Yeah.
it's like that's 4 years. So look past his previous policies. I mean, especially during the COVID crisis, and you will see exactly what their thought process is. They may say one thing, but this is how they really feel, and this is where they govern.
Yeah, they took all rights from businesses. They took all rights from that. They screwed over
people,
so many businesses. And then it was like, well, go figure it out now. And now it's like, oh, the business sector really needs to step up. It's like, dude, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't control us and then be like, okay, now go. Like,
Yeah, so you go build your business just so we can tear them down and tell you what to do.
exactly.
That's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. The words are nice. I would like for that to happen. I agree. We've talked about the actual stats, how, 50% of over 50% of the employed people in the country are employed by small businesses, and about 50% of the income is generated by small businesses in the country. So we drive the market. We drive everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you're looking at those numbers, it's like, yeah, that's just common sense. You don't need to be saying it. You know what I mean? But again, politics, they're running. Get out and vote. Early voting is out now. Pretty much anywhere that you can vote, you can go ahead and cast your vote. This is where it matters, people, because, everybody talks about the presidential elections. It's kind of like, everybody that watches the Super Bowl but doesn't watch any football games, right?
Yeah.
It matters what happens during the season, not necessarily what happens in the Super Bowl, right? The season is what determines like how the outcome of the Super Bowl is going to be. And it's like, your local election is what's going to determine what happens at a national level. It's who are you letting into office?
Yeah.
Because these are the people that you let into office that control the policies locally, that goes into the state goes into the country, everything goes up and it affects everything. So if you don't like the way that things are and all this, and we're debating, electing The Rock as president, why don't you start thinking about maybe we should start working on our own backyard, so then we can actually have a very highly qualified, educated president running.
Or there are people that like want to run for president. Or you have a lot of these business people that are like, I think they would be a great candidate to help run this country. But they're like, screw that. Like, I don't even want that pressure. I have no idea that ambition to put up with the BS that you have to do to run for public office. Like, it's just not worth it for them. Or it's just not going to happen. But another article that goes right inside with that is about the EDF, the Economic Development Foundation. So how EDF plans to get SA in the mix with the hottest U.S. cities. So San Antonio Economic Development Foundation is working to put that retooled game plan in action. The nonprofit will need to raise millions more to fully implement that comprehensive playbook, and it's launching the effort in the midst of a global health crisis that has shaken San Antonio's economy. For years, we have compared ourselves as a community to our past performance, and we have incrementally improved over time. San Antonio's EDF president and CEO, Jenna Sosundino Herrera, told me. Even on the heels of 2019, which was a great year for us, if you look at the long-term true health indicators of our economy, we don't stack up well with those top-performing economies. The new plan is designed to put San Antonio in a more competitive position with several key markets, including Austin, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Denver, Kansas City, Jacksonville, Florida, Nashville, Phoenix, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. Stacked against those places, the Alamo City ranks 11th in economic performance and education attainment, according to analysis by Market Street Services. San Antonio ranks 10th in quality of life and only 2 spots higher in workforce competitiveness. Under the new 5-year plan, the EDF will need to raise $16.5 million on top of the $22 million it's already budgeted, including $5 million for Work SA for the period. Those funds will enable the organization to boost corporate recruitment, back airport improvement efforts, and build new branding to better market the region. So they didn't really go too much into their plan. They referenced, we need to implement this new plan. Like, what is it? So they're trying to boost corporate recruitment, back airport improvements, and build new branding, better marketing to the region. I mean, everyone knows those things are important. It's like, what are you specifically going to do with this money to put us in the tune of Austin's, the Floridas, the Dallas, the Kansas Cities, the Jacksonvilles, the Phoenix, like these other boom cities out there? Like, what exactly are we going to do as San Antonians to make our city? Because I do agree we have a very beautiful city. We have plenty of road systems. We got plenty of growth. We have the housing, but something is always lackluster here. And I think it really starts at downtown, because you see the BS that they say one thing, but then they don't back you up when you want to do it. We want density, but you're trying to develop density. We're not going to help you. You need to figure out how to do that. Like, no, you need the policies that in place that allow us to do the things you're wanting to do. You can't just say it and expect us to figure out with your old antiquated rules and
to
laws.
that point, over just that whole shit, the policies and all that. Like, you just need to have your committees or whatever it is. You need to have them connected, because it seems like they are so disconnected from each other. Because you have the city saying one thing, but then HDRC, let's say, can do something completely different, and then the HOA can do something completely different, and then this can do something. There needs to be at least some level of hierarchy where it's like, hey, the city that's focused on the economic development of the city has the final say.
Yeah.
And you can stipulate on like the stupid little things that matter for your area. So like HDRC, okay, you stipulate on the silly little things that, like, the siding you use or the windows or whatever, right? But like, if the city approves,
that's one area that does need to be stripped of its power is HDRC, because they do see not just only historical stuff, but all new commercial development as well. So if they want to build a new building downtown, the process you have to go through to get that approved through historical design review commissions, like it's extremely dumb. And they have way too much power for what that they approve and don't approve.
That's why, like, I think, it's one of those things that beyond, we need money for this, we need money for that. You need to fix your system first, because you're dumping more money on top of an already broken system, on a system that doesn't communicate with itself, that has holes and issues everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be dumping millions of dollars that's essentially not going anywhere, because now it's like, let's do this over here. And then it's like, but then you have all this failing over here. Okay. And then we'll deal with that in the next election. And it's just, again, we go back to the same thing. What do we need to say to get elected this year, right? This election, this thing, but nobody's looking at the long term. What can we do now that is going to survive even our own terms in politics, right? What policies, what rules, what shit can we do right now that's gonna go further than our political term limit and our political lifeline here? So those are the things that I'm more interested in. Those are the things that I'm more curious. And there's been a few of you that have approached me on being like a researcher for us. So this is something that I would love for you to research. What are these things that they're proposing? So, they have this economic development plan. What is it? What are they developing? What is the actual plan? Where is this money going to? Let's look at it, because it's very easy to say the same thing like Biden's been saying with his infrastructure plan. Oh, here's my, my infrastructure. We're going to do roads and bridges and whatever the hell. Great. Where? Which ones? How? What's the timeline? Like, I want to see the scope of work, damn it.
Yeah. Show me
Show
what
me
you're
the scope of work.
Show me the money.
So those are the things that I want to know. And for those of you that, are just joining us, or maybe you don't know, you got to make sure you join our text community. You understand? 210-794-9898, and just text us CWTJ, and you'll be a part of insider tips, training, a bunch of stuff, discounts when we do workshops, a ton of stuff you'll be a part of. And if you live local, you'll be able to join our property tours. And these are tours that we're doing of our own projects, everything. You'll be able to see our scopes of work, everything that we do in real time. Ask your questions and poke and ask and wonder, and whatever you're wondering about flipping, building, all of that, it's your chance to ask. So if you live locally, text property tour to 210-794-9898. It's great value. People enjoy it. We had a blast last week. People had a lot of great questions, a lot of good stuff. So we keep doing them. You keep texting, we keep doing them. So, but yeah, as far as the policies go, this is the same with everything we talk about. Where's the details? Because everybody talks headlines. Every politician, we're going to do this. Where's the detail? I want to see the scope.
It's always like the headlines with this new stimulus package. It's like, oh, this is the highlights of it. But then you didn't realize, like, because it's $1.9 trillion. And then, like, if you really dig down to the details, like how many millions of dollars are being sent overseas for pet projects and other things over around the world. It was like, what does that have to do with what's going on here in the U.S.?
Yep.
Like, why are we funding these things? Like the Smithsonian getting $27 million grant. Like, okay, yes, I get the Smithsonian's a cool museum and stuff like that, but like, why are they getting a grant? Like, I don't.
It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
I thought the roof was falling.
I know. I was like, what the hell's about to happen?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're putting money into stuff that don't, and then we go back to the same shit, right? It's not that you shouldn't be, the Smithsonian doesn't deserve this or whatever. It's just that I think there's other priorities in place, right? We just got hit with this massive economic, devastation. Businesses were put out of business. Companies shut down. People unemployed completely. People are losing. I mean, once they stop with all of these forbearance and extensions and everything, like, I'm actually very curious to see how people are going to handle the process of, shit, now I'm actually getting foreclosed and I still can't afford this house and I can't afford the next house and I don't know where the hell I'm going to go, and I got to downsize, but I have all this crap with me. Like, what do I do? All that stress, all that anxiety that's going to cost, because a lot of people always talk so easily about, oh, well, you just downsize. What's the problem? You're not taking into account the psychological effect that it does to people when they just literally lost their livelihoods.
Yeah.
It's not that there's an option or they have a way out, or you'll get a roof over your head. It's just a smaller apartment or whatever. It's the psychological effect of, I just lost everything and it wasn't even my fault, right? It was something that a freaking virus caused.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things that I'm more worried about. And those are the things that, to me, is more priority than the Smithsonian, and it's just, I don't know. It's how I look at it. But I did want to touch on this article real quick. Actually, we'll leave this article for next time. What I did want to cover was, I had a listener send me a question and through Instagram. And he says, is a young kid. He says, so I'm thinking about getting my real estate license and also investing my first $1,000 that I've saved up, and I don't know where to start or where to put my money so I can get on this investing stuff. And this is Robbie from IG. So that was his question.
And I know I'd tell him to start.
Go ahead.
Invest in yourself is the first thing, because $1,000 is a lot of money, but it's also not a lot of money. If that's your only $1,000, you can lose that very quickly if you're trying to jump into like stock market, trying to get behind trends, especially when you don't know what you're doing. I would invest that in a series of books. I wouldn't get into much like the personal development courses and stuff like that, because I think you're entering like kind of scam city there with a lot of them. But there's numerous books you could read to figure out what piques your interest, what do you want to do? What do you not want to do? You want to get in this real estate thing? Read books on real estate to see if like it's actually something that you're interested and passionate about. If you can read the books, there's not even a whole lot of them out there that I would say recommend because they're all very repetitive for the sense. But I would start with that to see like, do you like those books? Read about money and how money works. There's a fantastic book that I suggest everyone read. It's called The Truth About Money by Rick Edelman. It's a very high level view of across all things personal finance, investing, to buying cars, to buying houses, to investing long term, to all kinds of things. So, I mean, it's a very easy read. I'd say everyone should start with that. And then reading into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading into book that Jack Bogle wrote about investing. I can't think of the name of it right now. But that's where I'd say would start. If you got $1,000, like spend a couple $100 and you're not even talking $1,000 that you have to spend. Like continue to save and buy $200 worth of books and read through those and see if you actually get consumed by it and are interested in that. What say you?
I completely disagree. I think that was the worst advice you could have ever given.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree 100%. That's
like it's not how you started or anything.
So that I agree. And my advice to him was, I told him, I was like, first, you need to figure out what this investing stuff means to you, right?
Yeah.
What is it? What options do you have when it comes time to investing? Are you interested in flipping? Are you interested in rentals? Are you interested in wholesaling? Are you even interested in single family? Do you want to do multifamily? You want to do commercial? There's a huge space of everything. And I wish they did an updated version of this because of how real estate's changed. But a book that I really liked was, I don't remember the name.
That's good.
It was by Robert Kiyosaki. It wasn't a very famous book, but it was a thick ass book. It was called like, I want to say it was called like The Real Estate Book or something. What I liked about it was it covered every area of real estate.
Oh, really?
Like it covered, mobile homes. It covered everything. And that's actually one of the first books that where I learned about wholesaling. I didn't know about wholesaling way back then. Like I think I read it like 10 years ago or something. And that was around the time it came out. And that's where I came across this investor at the time called Dean Graziosi. And he was all about wholesaling. And that's where I learned about it because they talked about wholesaling. They talked about everything, every industry of real estate. It had a professional in that industry talking about it. So I went through it. I was kind of looking at him like, oh, this is interesting. No, I don't like that. I don't like that. And when I saw wholesaling at the time, like everybody else, I'm like,
yeah,
what? For $10? I can make $5,000? Woo! I'm gonna be rich.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I put a lot of $10 in there.
Yeah.
So the book is called The Real Book of Real Estate by Robert Kiyosaki. And if you text START to 210-794-9898, we will send you a list of the books that we recommend you start with if you're getting started in real estate. And these are going to not necessarily all be real estate related, but these are the books that we feel are a must. After these books, everything else is up to you. You should not invest any more money on education. You should invest more of your time into actually doing. So with all that being said, what I told them was, I was like, look, man, you need to first figure out what the hell do you want to do in real estate?
Yeah.
When you figure that out, when you say, and then don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that you need to figure out what you want to do in real estate for the rest of your life because it changes. But right now, I'm interested in flipping houses. Okay, go find yourself a local flipper, somebody that's actually rehabbing houses. And I'm talking about quite a few houses, at least 10 a year, somebody that's doing some volume. Go to them and be like, how can I provide you value? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to, where you're flipping houses, do you want me to go door knock everybody there and see if they want to sell their home? You know what I mean? Like, what would you like me to do? How can I bring you value in exchange for you showing me everything about flipping houses? You become their mentee. They become your mentor. Many investors will do this. We do this. Somebody comes to us and says, hey, look, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to do whatever you want. I want to learn. What do you need? And you're really willing to put in the work? We'll put your ass to work, but you will learn. I mean, anybody that's ever worked with us, any wholesaler that's ever partnered with us, ask them if we don't share everything. I mean, we share how we manage the books. We share the contracts, title, closing, scopes of work, contractors. We share so much that they even stop asking questions.
Well, it's one
they're
of the
like,
things that people has asked too. Like, why would you give so much of that value away for free? Why not? It's like, one, I know how much work, we know how much work this takes.
oh yeah.
It's like, we're in this 24/7, 365, constantly dealing with the headaches that are involved in working in this business, where it's like, we work. And like, I'll give you my full business plan, but it's also one of the things like, I believe that we'll work harder than you at it. So you and I can take on the same strategy, but it's also, we've built this business to where we're at, to where like we learn these lessons by going through these, to where being told something and actually experiencing and learning it, two completely different schools of thought, and the kind of the school of hard knocks theory of how we learned it, to where it's like, I'm fine sharing everything we have. You have a question, I hide nothing from you. You're training your competition. Not really. Like,
No. If you look at it that way, that you're training your competition and all this, you have such a scarcity mindset, and you don't understand what it really takes. You haven't done this. If you have done any level of this, you understand that's like, yeah, share it. Because, and I mean, not only just share it. How many times have we actually sat down with somebody and shown them, like step by step, what is it that we're doing? They still don't do it. Like, I did the workshop on literally our marketing strategy, everything that we're doing, everything that we're using, step by step. They're still not doing it.
Yeah.
You understand? They still have, and I showed them everything. Like, it wasn't anything that you're saying, oh, but you left this out. No, I showed you where we get a list, how we filter our list, what service we use, how we upload to the service, everything. The thing is that it takes a lot of work to do it.
Yep.
And they won't do it. Right. And that's the thing. It's like I told them, if you're not willing to work, just don't do this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what you've thought or who's lied to you, but this is not something that's easy.
Not like a side job.
No,
that you do
by any means. This is not something like
you
like
can make
a lot
some
of
money on it doing the side, but it's not.
Or like
the
a
tune
lot
that
of
you're
gurus
probably
were
believing
pitching when I got started. For 10 hours a month, you can make 15K. Like, fuck. I'm willing to work, 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like, that was my initial introduction to all this. Like, that's why it took me so long, because I felt like I was broken, right? Like, I felt like I was doing something wrong, because I'm like, man, I am busting my ass doing this. And they're giving me example of some hillbilly like in middle America that's making like 25 grand a month. And I'm like, I know construction, I know everything.
And that's why I said the first thing I said with $1,000 is don't go out and try to join personal development courses and things like that, and gurus, because like they sell you with that. That's like, this is the one-stop shop to making your life instantly better. Just pay me, give me all your money, and I'll teach you how to do it. It's like, no, like, that's why don't start there. I was like, you need to understand what the real world is really like, especially the younger you are. I mean, we're not even that old either. Like, we're still learning every single day. But it's also like
we will never stop. We will never stop learning. Yeah. I mean, it's how many times do we take on? And this is an episode that's actually no, it dropped already. So this is an episode that came out Wednesday, and I talk about when to choose whether you're going to flip a house or you're going to keep it as a rental. How to determine that. And the biggest thing is that a lot of people, they're like, well, obviously it depends on the numbers. No, it doesn't. Because we have houses right now that they all make sense for rentals, yet we're flipping them. And I talk about five different opportunities that a house can bring to you. That is what's going to determine whether you're going to keep it as a flip or you're going to keep it as a rental or flip the house. We talked about that because that's the stuff that you need to be analyzing. Market conditions, partnership opportunities, learning experiences. And there's a lot of times that we've taken on a project that we had a strategy that will make us more money, but we used something else because it was going to help us in a different area of our business. Yeah. Because profit is the last thing we look at. What we look at is what area of our business do we need more help in? And that's what we look at first, and profit last, right? I mean, profits last on everything we do. It's just been a bit of an issue for us. Sometimes we put profit way too far last. But you know, that's how we do it. But that's why we're still in business and why people like working with us, you know. And I saw Andrea on here. She had put that the property tour that we did last week was great, and she learned a lot. So it was great having you there. You asked a lot of great questions. But yeah, that was the advice. Find somebody local, give them your time, give them your value. They're going to educate you. They're going to teach you, but you gotta be willing to put in the work. You know, $1,000, you're not going to get anywhere with $1,000. But like you said, buying these right books and listening
Investing
to the
in
right
yourself,
podcast and learning the language, like that's the biggest thing. Immerse yourself in real estate. You need to be learning everything about real estate.
Yep.
You know, the more you learn, the more you're going to figure out whether you like this, you don't like that. You're going to be even better to serve somebody that's willing to teach you because you're not coming fresh off the boat, let's say, with no knowledge.
Yep.
So that was my advice to him and your advice. So I hope that helps. And with that being said, we have 10 minutes left. So we got a lot going on. So we're going to just end it here, wrap it up.
Yep.
Sounds good?
Sounds good.
So hope you all liked it. Again, give us that thumbs up. Show us some love. If you're listening on the podcast, head over to YouTube and give us that thumbs up. Means a lot. Helps us out a ton. We're trying to get out there. We're trying to get more people to see us and know about us, just so they can get this value that you guys see. If you're listening, we put everything out. There's nothing we hold back. There's nothing we don't share. We believe in doing real estate the right way, and we hope that you are getting value out of all of the things that we're doing and all of the things that we're sharing. With that being said, next week, we will be back on your regular scheduled programming, Friday morning, 8 a.m. And for now, thank you all for watching and have a great week.